Book of Heaven, Volume 18, 7th to the 11th of February 1926. Page 73 to 80. February 7, 1926. The divine will, reigning in the soul, raises her above everything, and loving with the love of a God, she can love all things with his very love, and is constituted possessor and queen of all creation. I was fusing myself in the holy divine volition according to my usual way, and taking the eternal "I love you" of my sweet Jesus, and making it my own. I was going around throughout the whole creation in order to impress it upon each thing, so that everything and everyone might have one single note, one single sound, one single harmony. I love you, I love you, I love you, for myself and for all, toward my Creator, who so much loved me. Now, while I was doing this, my lovable Jesus came out from within my interior, and pressing me to his heart, all tenderness, told me, "My daughter, how beautiful is the 'I love you' of one who lives in my will. I hear the echo of mine together with hers over all created things, therefore I feel the requital of love of the creature for everything I have done." And then, to love means to possess what one loves, or wanting to possess that which is loved. So, you love the whole creation because it is mine, and I let you love it because I want to make it yours. Your repeated, "I love you," for me upon each created thing is the way and the right of possession, the right to possess them. In feeling loved, all creation recognizes their master, and therefore they make feast in hearing your "I love you" being repeated upon them. Love makes one recognize what is one's own, and they give themselves only to those by whom they are loved, and my will reigning in the soul is the confirmation that what is mine is hers. Now, when something is in common between two persons, highest accord is needed, one cannot do without the other, and here is the necessity of their inseparable union, of continuous communications on what to do with what they possess. Oh, how my will reigning in the soul raises her above everything, and loving with the love of a God, she can love all things with his very love, and is constituted possessor and queen of all creation. My daughter, it is in this happy state that I created man. My will was to make up for all that was lacking in him, and to raise him to the likeness of his Creator. And this is precisely my aim upon you, to make you return to the origin, as we created man. Therefore, I do not want division between me and you, nor that what is mine be not yours, but in order to give you your rights, I want you to recognize what is mine, so that, as you love everything and your "I love you" flows over all things, all of creation may recognize you. They will feel in you the echo of the beginning of the creation of man, and delighting in it, they will yearn to be possessed by you. I act for you like a king who is despised by his peoples, offended, forgotten. These peoples are no longer under the regime of the laws of the king, and if they observe any of the laws, it is force that imposes itself on them, not love. So, the poor king is forced to live in his royal palace, isolated, without the love, the subjection and the submission of the peoples to his will. But among many, he notices that there is one alone who maintains himself whole in letting himself be subdued, entirely and completely, by the will of the king. Even more, he repairs, he cries for the rebellious wills of the whole people, and would want to compensate the king by making himself act for each creature, so that he might find in him everything that he should find in all the rest of the people. The king feels drawn to love this one, and keeps him always under his eyes to see whether he is constant, and not for one day, but for a period of his life, because only constancy is what the king can rely upon, so as to be sure of what he wants to make of the creature. To sacrifice oneself, to do good for one day, is something easy for the creature, but to sacrifice oneself and do good for one's own life, oh, how difficult it is, and if it happens, it is a divine virtue operating in the creature. So, when the king feels sure about him, he calls him to himself into his royal palace, he gives to him all that he should give to the whole people, and putting the others aside, he makes the new generation of his chosen people come out from this one, which will have no other ambition than to live of the will of the king alone, all submitted to him, like many births from his womb. Don't you think, my daughter, that this is precisely what I am doing for you? My continuous calling you into my will, so that, not yours, but mine may live in you, my wanting from you that you let me find the note of your "I love you," of your adoration for your Creator, of your reparation for each offense, upon all created things and from the first to the last man that will come. Does this not say in clear notes that I want everything in order to give you everything, and that, raising you above everything. I want my will to be restored in you, whole, beautiful, triumphant, just as it came out of us in the beginning of creation. My will was the prime act of the creature. The creature had her prime act in my will, and therefore it wants to do its course of life in her. And even though it was suffocated at its very first arising in the creature, it was not extinguished, and therefore it awaits its field of life in her. Don't you want to be its first little field? Therefore, be attentive. When you want something, never do it on your own, but pray to me that my will may do it in you. In fact, that same thing, if you do it yourself, sounds bad, gives of human, but if my will does it, it sounds good, it harmonizes with heaven, it is sustained by a divine grace and power, it is the Creator that operates in the creature, its fragrance is divine, and rising everywhere, it embraces everyone with one single embrace, in such a way that all feel the good of the operating of the Creator in the creature. February 11, 1926. The human will is the woodworm that gnaws at all goods and the key that opens all evils. Each act of human will, not connected with that of God, forms an abyss of distance between Creator and creature. I was thinking to myself, why so much fear in me, to the point of feeling my life missing in me, that, may this never be, I might not do the most holy will of God entirely and completely? The mere thought of this destroys me. What would it be, then, if I came to the point of withdrawing, even for one single instant, from the supreme and adorable will of my Creator? Now, while I was thinking of this, my lovable Jesus came out from within my interior, and taking my hands in his, he kissed them with unspeakable love. Then he pressed them so very tightly to his breast, and, all tenderness, told me, "My daughter, how beautiful is my will operating in your hands. Your motions are wounds for me, but divine wounds, because they come from the depth of my will, dominating, operating and triumphant in you. So, I feel wounded as though by another me. With just reason do you fear. If you went out of my supreme will, even for one instant, oh, how low you would descend. You would reduce yourself as though from the state of Adam innocent to the state of Adam guilty. And since Adam had been created as the head of all generations, his will, withdrawn from his Creator, formed the woodworm in the root of the tree of all generations. Therefore, all feel the ruins which the woodworm of the human will, formed from the very beginning of the creation of man. Each act of human will, not connected with that of God, forms an abyss of distance between Creator and creature, and therefore distance of sanctity, of beauty, of nobility, of light, of science, etc. So, by withdrawing from the divine will, Adam did nothing but put himself at a distance from his Creator. This distance debilitated him, impoverished him, unbalanced him completely, and caused imbalance in all generations, because when evil is in the root, the whole tree is forced to feel the malignant effects, the bad humors, which are in the root. Therefore, my daughter, since I have called you as the first, and as the head of the mission of my will, this will of mine must lay in you the balance between you and the Creator, and therefore remove the distance which exists between the human will and the divine, so as to be able to form in you the root of the tree without bad humors, making only the vital humor of my will flow, so that the tree may not be jeopardized in its vegetation, in the development and in the preciousness of its fruits. Now, if you wanted to do an act of your will, not connected with mine, you would come to form the woodworm to the mission which I have entrusted to you, and like a second Adam, you would ruin the root of the tree of my will, which I want to form in you, and would jeopardize all those who will want to graft themselves to this tree, because they would not find all the fullness of my will in the one in whom it had its beginning. Therefore, it is I who cast this fear into your soul, so that my will may always be dominant in you, and all the manifestations which I have made to you may always be in vegetation, in order to form the divine root, trunk, branches, flowers and fruits, without the shadow of your human will. In this way, you would return to your origin, into the womb of your Creator, all beautiful, grown and formed with the fullness of the supreme will. And the divinity, satisfied in you of the work of the creation of man, would make its chosen people of the fiat voluntas tua on earth as it is in heaven come out from you and from the mission entrusted to you. Therefore, be attentive, my daughter, and do not want to ruin the work of my will in you. I love it so much and it costs me so much, that I will use all my infinite jealousies, I myself will guard my will, so that yours may never have life. I remained surprised, and I comprehended with such clarity what an act of human will means, compared to an act of divine will, and how the soul, by doing her own will, loses the physiognomy of her Creator. And stripping herself of the beauty with which she was created, she clothes herself with miserable rags, she barely drags herself in good, she acquires the diabolical likeness, she feeds herself with dirty foods. My Jesus, give us all the grace never to do our own will, which is like calling all passions back to life. So, almost trembling, I tried to plunge more deeply into the supreme will, and I called my celestial Mama to my help, so that, together, in the name of all, we might adore the supreme will on behalf of all the human wills opposed to it. Now, while I was doing this, the heavens opened, and my Jesus came out from within my interior, all in feast, and told me, "Daughter of my volition, you must know that when my will reigns in the soul, it integrates everything she does and the development of the life of my eternal will in her. So, it was not you who called my divine Mama, but it was my will that called her. And she, feeling called by a divine will, which has always been whole and triumphant within her, immediately perceived that one from the celestial family was calling her upon earth. And she said to all heaven, 'Let us go, let us go.' It is one from our family that is calling us to fulfill the duties of the family to which we belong. And here they are, look at them, all around us. The Virgin, the saints, the angels, to do the act of adoration which you want to do, and the divinity, to receive it. My will has such power as to enclose everything and make everyone do the same thing, as if it were one single act. Hence the great difference that passes between one who lets my will reign within herself and one who lives of her own self. In the first one there is a divine will, that prays, that operates, that thinks, that looks, that suffers. At each motion of hers, it moves heaven and earth and connects everything together, in such a way that all feel the power of the divine will, operating in the creature, and recognize in her the nobility, the likeness, the offspring of their Creator, and, as daughter of the celestial family, all protect her, assist her, defend her and long to have her together with them in the celestial fatherland. All the opposite for one who lives of her own will, which is the key of hell, of miseries, of inconstancy. Whatever place it opens, it can open only there where evil is. And if she does any good at all, it is apparent, because inside of it there is the wood worm of her will which gnaws at everything. Therefore, even if it should cost you your life, never, never go out of my will.